So my name is Lisa Diggs. I run a campaign called Buy Michigan Now, which is about encouraging people to buy from Michigan-based businesses and buying Michigan-made products. And I also have a company called The Catalyst Company, which is a performance consulting business, which is about helping small to medium-sized businesses increase their bottom line. So that's how I come to make my living. One is how I make my living, and the other one is how one of the major ways I try to give back to the community. So how many of you in the room are entrepreneurs? Okay, vast majority, right? Okay, great. I just wanted to get an idea of a couple of the other people that would come today. I know it's very marketing oriented, so that doesn't surprise me, but I just want to get a feel for that. So the topic of this particular conversation is all business is local. So my first question to all of you is, in a global economy, is that even possible? Is all business local in a global economy? Heads are nodding. Okay, somebody who says yes, tell me why.
Because we're all connected and it's got to start somewhere, even if it's global.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody disagree with that? Go ahead.
Petroleum. We still buy 40% of our petroleum outside the USA. And even if you ride a bike to your place of employment, you buy plastic, and there's so many other products petroleum is a source of.
So there's certainly things that we are purchasing on a global scale. There are things that we buy on a global scale. There are things that I try to do everything really, really local, and no matter how hard I try, I cannot find a Michigan-grown pineapple. Yet I enjoy a good pineapple, so I have not given them up, right? So I think both of these things are actually true, and one of the things that I hope to bring out in you today is adopting a philosophy of all business being local, even though we do live in a global economy. What can that mean to me? What can that mean to my business? And part of what we're talking about this whole weekend, how does that change the story that I have to tell? So how many of you have seen this ad? Anybody? Okay, do you know what it was? This is about 20 global companies in Detroit that are worth a collective $250 billion that are running ads in the New York Times and the Washington Post. They ran it in the Detroit Free Press, right? Telling the world basically that Detroit is a great place to do business. These are all global companies. Almost everybody on here is playing well. Meyer's in there, but otherwise almost everybody on there is playing well beyond Detroit. So why would they bother?
Because it's true.
Because it's true, okay.
And to retain and attract the talent that we have, because we have a huge talent drain. People don't think there's jobs, and there are, and there's great opportunities that just coming about to get them. So how do you attract great talent here, and how do we keep the talent that we have?
Excellent point.
I think it goes back to that. I think the universal truth and make it intimate and personal, and that's where it has its power. So even if you want to affect a global economy, it starts with that intimate, local meaning that gives it that connection.
Okay, so even for the largest companies in the world, somehow they have to do something in their own backyard, right? Part of that is absolutely attracting and retaining talent, right? It's part of what leads to the whole concept of why would anybody try to adopt a business as local philosophy. There are different ones. The first one we're talking about is community involvement. There's also collaborative opportunities, economic growth, and it's part of your story. Wherever in the world your business is based, you are there in that community for some reason, and that makes a part of the story that you have to tell to the rest of the world about who you are and why they should do business with you. So talking a little bit more about community involvement, does anybody recognize any of these places? The theater, okay. Anybody know where that is? Chelsea, okay. Anybody know who's associated with it? Jeff Daniels, okay, very good. That's the Purple Rose Theater that was founded by Jeff Daniels. There's a company that's a major donor to that particular theater. Any guesses? It might be in the Chelsea community. Jiffy. Chelsea Milling Company that makes Jiffy products that they sell all over the world is a major donor to the Purple Rose Theater right in their own backyard, right? Because that same thing, it's quality of life, it's their community, it's part of what it stands for. Think about their brand. Wholesome, all-American kinds of foods. theater, small town theater that's out of a high caliber, high quality in their own backyard. It's a perfect marriage of their story with something to invest in, and yet they're doing something phenomenal for their community. Up here above it, we have a fantastic park in St. Joseph. It's a fountain that changes all kinds of things, sprays all over, kids run through it. There's also a merry-go-round across from it, all of this at Silver Beach, put together by Whirlpool Corporation. St. Joseph is right next door to Benton Harbor. Benton Harbor is the world headquarters of Whirlpool Corporation. So yes, they compete on a global level, but right in their own backyard, they do that. That one, good excuse for quality of life, right? They just made the area where their headquarters is based that much greater to live in for the people that they want to attract. And oh, by the way, when they have meetings with people from around the world that come to their headquarters, they also have a cooler place to show off and entertain when they're there, right? So there are immediate benefits. The one up here is Dow Gardens. Any guess what town that's in? There you go, right? Midland, same thing. And then down here, this is the Ford Center for Performing Arts in Dearborn, exactly. So you get the concept. Even on the global level, these companies are investing locally because they have a belief in it's part of their story, because they have a belief in supporting their own community, because that's where the people that they care about, that work for them and with them, are going to be. And yeah, some customers too. All their customers? No. But there's still a good reason for them to make that kind of investment. So, when you look at community involvement as one of the tenets of a business, there's all kinds of opportunities available to you, but there's a real benefit to doing something that has a local flair to it. It makes a better story. And it does good. The doing good part is going to happen whether you contribute, donate to a global level or you do something at a local level. But you get a better story if you do a local level most of the time. So let's look at, does anybody recognize that Go Blue in the sky over there? Anybody happen to know what that is? Where that is? Says the Spartan. Yes?
Yeah, no, it happened at Spartan Stadium.
Spartan Stadium, paid for by the University of Michigan on a Saturday football game day. They did skywriting of Go Blue over the Spartan Stadium. There's a lot of discrepancy over whether they actually intended and said it had to be there or not. But first they didn't pay for it, then they did, but that's okay, says the Spartan. However, does anybody know what the president of the MSU Alumni Association did about this when this happened?
Yes.
What did he do?
They challenged it, I think it was like $25,000 to do that. I remember it was a significant amount. He challenged a donation.
He's a pilot, so he actually estimated it to be about $5,000, the cost to do that, not actually knowing the cost. But you're right on track. So instead of creating some kind of battle, he seized the opportunity. It was Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. His wife had battled ovarian cancer, but instead of just a big contribution, he picked the local charity that supported her, challenged all the MSU people who had a negative reaction to that to donate what they could as a way of saying, you can do that, but this is what we stand for, and then challenged the U of M Alumni Association to get their people to do the same thing. They raised $43,000. He originally was shooting for $5,000. That local charity probably has an annual budget that's around $50,000 to $100,000 a year. So he just changed everything for that particular nonprofit for the year. But he also did something very important. He seized a magical moment. There are moments, there are opportunities that rise up. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? There are a lot of organizations that are doing things that are about breast cancer awareness. Thank goodness. And it is really, really important. But you can get lost in the shuffle if you look at, if you buy yogurt with the pink cap, if you watch the NFL players and the pink shoes they have on, if you do, right? It's everywhere. So how could you as a local business do something about this thing that you maybe are very passionate about and actually still get noticed from a business perspective?
Bring it to the next month.
What's that?
Bring it to the next month.
Bring it to the next month. You could do it when everybody isn't doing it anymore. Okay. Any other ideas?
Find a customer of yours that's experienced it.
Find a customer of yours that's experienced it. Take a personal story, right? Help somebody, maybe it's an employee within your organization, maybe it's a customer. Maybe it's a nonprofit in the area, the name is escaping me, but there's a nonprofit in the Detroit area that pays the bills. Thank you, the Pink Fund. Pays the bills of women who are occupied with trying to get well and don't have the money to take care of rent and groceries and those typical things that need to happen, and they step in for a while. And if you hear the stories of those people, it's amazing how a few months of not having to worry about that and having somebody step in and do that allowed them to fight their cancer, right? What a great story that's already built in. And as a local business, you're going to be able to not only do some really serious good, but from a marketing standpoint, you get to stand out in a way that is different than the stories that are about making a donation to Carmanos or to Susan G. Komen. And that's not to take anything away from those organizations. It's just about thinking, am I making an impact on my immediate community? And if I am, maybe that's a better story to tell. And maybe I can do both things. Maybe I can do some serious good, and at the same time, maybe my business can get some real attention for the serious good that I just chose to do. It's a blending of both of those things. So that's how community involvement can be a factor if you make all business local. Let's talk about collaborative opportunities. It's easier to collaborate with people that you actually meet. Would you agree? I mean, I know in this world of technology, we can do anything, right? We can cross upon, and you can collaborate around the ring. Let's hope that global collaboration is actually possible, or our world is in even more trouble than it's in right now, right? Let's hope that collaboration across borders is a possible thing. But it certainly is easier to collaborate with people that are in your own back door, that you come to something like this and you meet them, and I'm sure that at the half-day mark, there are several collaborations that are already brewing in this. I've got one or two. I know Lynn had two within 20 seconds when I was talking to her, so I know that they are happening within this room, because when you meet people, there's a broader opportunity for that on a local level. Sometimes you get really creative collaborations out of the people that are in your community. Anybody recognize those two items? McClure's Pickles and snowboards. McClure's Pickles are a design on a snowboard company that's out of Brighton. And that snowboard company also has a Fago snowboard if you'd like it. I believe they're working on a better made snowboard if you'd like it. What they did was they have to stand out against all the other global competition making snowboards. They make really great high quality custom made snowboards. It's a phenomenal product, but it's not going to be in all the stores that everybody else is in. Right? It's going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit. They have to create a different market for themselves. So what is the market that they can carve out for themselves first and most immediately? The people that are around them. How do they carve out the market of the people that are around them? They start doing cool branding that people that are in this area will recognize. It would be really fun to be on Mount Brighton with Fago or McClure's Pickles snowboard as opposed to just any cool design, right? They also make a lot of cool designs that don't have that, but it carves out a different niche for them. So they were really smart in doing that. McClure's Pickles, did you know you can get better made McClure pickle chips? It's pickle flavored potato chips. How many of you think it sounds like a good idea? Okay, how many of you think I would not eat that? Just curious. All right, you might, I'm just saying tempt yourself. Because if you've ever had a deli sandwich and the pickle juice accidentally hit the potato chip and it didn't gross you out, you may enjoy these chips very much. Because it is kind of a very interesting combination. Go ahead.
They also do dirty martinis at Valentine Vodka.
Yes, Valentine Vodka and McClure's have combined together, and so now McClure's has a really good Bloody Mary product that is out, and they do a lot of events with Valentine Vodka, which is in Ferndale. They could use whatever kind of vodka to make a Bloody Mary, but they're not. They're partnering with somebody local, and the same thing with Valentine's. They could work with others, but they went with somebody local, and so now you get a different story. And as somebody that, through the Buy Michigan Now campaign that I run, one of the things that I do is for our members, just because it's part of what we're trying to do, we pitch stories all the time to the media. And it's a lot easier for me to pitch McClure's and Valentine Bloody Marys than it would be for somebody else who's just trying to get a TV station to cover Bloody Marys. Right? That's not a story they're anxious to tell. But when you can say, hey, these are two great brands, and they're doing it at this nonprofit event for charity, Come on, who doesn't want to cover that story, right? It's got all the elements built into it. So that's the kind of collaboration that you can get. Sometimes collaboration comes in really unusual packages. Competitive collaboration. Anybody remember the movie A Beautiful Mind? Okay, starring Russell Crowe. All right, there we go. For the Gentleman, starring Jennifer Connelly. It was a Ron Howard film circa, I don't know, previous millennium? I have no idea. I can't remember how far back it was. But if you remember that movie, there is a scene when Russell Crowe, who plays the early years of a famous economist, goes into a bar with some friends. A very pretty blonde woman comes in with 4 brunette friends. Does anybody remember this? She comes in with 4 brunette friends, and his idea is they all want to go after the blonde. And his idea is, if we all go after the blonde, we're going to compete with each other, and probably none of us are going to get her anyway. But if we ignore her entirely, and we throw all our praise and attention toward these 4 brunettes, we'll probably all end up getting to go out with one of these brunettes, and isn't that a great plan? That little moment actually led to an economic theory that is the reason why you see Home Depot and Lowe's on the same corner. Because the idea is if you get the people to come, we can split up which one they go to. But if they go to the other side of town, we didn't get anything. Right? So that's where you start to look at collaborative partnerships. The beer brewers in Michigan, did you know that Michigan is the great beer state?
Yeah.
That's one of the nicknames. We're not just the Wolverine state anymore, or the Great Lakes state, we're the great beer state. We are the 5th largest producer of craft beer in the United States, and we make some really, really good craft beers. And so the brewers who have to compete with each other, because there's a niche of people, not everybody orders, first of all, not everybody drinks alcohol. Out of that audience, not everybody who drinks alcohol drinks a beer. Out of that audience of beer drinkers, certainly not everybody's going to pay a little bit more for a craft beer. You got your Budweiser and your Miller and your all those best-selling beers, right? So you get down to a relatively small market of people that actually drink the beer and drink the higher quality craft beers that they are producing. And then out of that audience, there's now about 90 breweries around the state. And so how do you get your loyal fan base? So there could be a very highly competitive environment. But what the Michigan brewers recognized was, hey, we're growing some of our own ingredients. We have a totally different take on the way that beer could be made than the rest of the country and probably the rest of the world. So what if instead of always competing with each other, we started to figure out how to make each other better? And out of that, they have regular discussions. Some of these brewers, bless you, some of these brewers meet every 3 weeks and sit down and have conversations about how was your business and what product are they really liking. That they can be a block away from each other, right? Definite head-on competitors, but they're looking at it in a different way. And because they did, there is a huge rise in demand for craft beers, partially in the country, but certainly in Michigan, because everybody's starting to notice. Anybody that drinks beer is starting to notice and say, I wonder what I'm missing out on, because everybody's always wanting one of these local beers and maybe I should start trying them. So they created an increase in demand. We've become a tourist destination for beer drinking. We have pop-up beer gardens. All these things are happening. The Michigan Brewers Guild does about 4 festivals that they actually commission. The tickets for those sell out so fast you can't believe it. But on any given day, if you go to Founders Brewery in Grand Rapids, if you go to Bell's Brewery in Kalamazoo, you will find people on any given day that are from outside the state of Michigan who are doing a little beer tour. Hopefully not driving from one place to another, but doing a little beer tour where they're going to test out these products and see what they like and have conversations. And then they all go on to social media and they say how fantastic the beer was at this place and the beer was on that place. And they have, by working together, they use the same hashtags. These brewers are, by working together, they are creating this whole influx of new customers, tourists, just consumers in general. And then once they get them, they can divide it up and see who gets what. So it makes you think a little bit about who could I partner with that I never thought of partnering with, doesn't it? Distribution. Some of them are sharing distribution. It's helping them reduce their costs. And production, there are a couple facilities that are actually talking about, they all have brew pubs and things where they're serving the beer and the food, and some of them don't even serve food, but they do serve the beer. And they're talking to each other about, could we share a production facility so that we could start bottling our best brews and getting them out into grocery stores, because they can't afford on their own to build it, but if they pulled it together. And yes, when it's on the grocery store shelves, they're going to be next to each other. And you and I are going to go in, and if we're making a beer purchase, we're going to choose between them. But they wouldn't get there on their own. And so it's an interesting idea of, on a local level, how you can get competitors to get together. If everybody comes to Michigan for tourism, all our businesses are going to do better. So we don't have to beat Japan or some other country in the world so much as if we just got all the people that were coming to the United States to put Michigan on their stop. We would do better. And once we do, it's that kind of way of thinking of what do we do as a community and which businesses could work together that maybe aren't yet. The next one is economic growth. This one is very, 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 very close to my heart. Because if you all think about how you spend your money, and I certainly hope in the next few minutes that I'm going to get you to think a little bit about how you currently spend your money, you will realize what a powerful weapon that is. Votes are incredibly important. The idea of voting, I hope that everybody votes. I think we should exercise our civic responsibility. But we have an opportunity every single day and multiple times a day to vote with the way that we spend our dollars, and it can make a significant impact. ABC News has been running for about the last 2 years a Made in America series. It started with they went into somebody's house and they removed everything that wasn't made in America. Anybody see that? Yes. What did they find? Yeah, it was an empty house. Because without thinking about it, these people just bought whatever they bought, and when they turned everything over and really found out where it was made, nothing was made in America. So it caused a big giant frenzy, and everybody started saying, we ought to have more stuff made here. How do we do that? Where do I get it? And so these are just a few of the examples that have come up since that then. The first one is I hope you will pay particular attention to, because we are coming very close to the fabulous holiday season, where most of us spend more money between November and December than we do at any other time in the year. So if we were spending more of that money locally, whether that means in our country or in our state or in our city or in the local places within a couple blocks of us, we're putting that much more into our community. So $64, if everybody in America shifted $64 of their spending and bought an American-made product, or $64 worth of American-made products over the holiday season, it can create 200,000 jobs within a year. That's impressive, because $64 is not a big amount. Most people spend somewhere upwards of $500 during the holiday season. $400 in college spending, people buy everything to go up on the wall, and if we've got anybody that just sent their kids to college, I know you know what I'm talking about, right? The sheets and the comforters and everything else that goes into the dorm rooms, and now they have to be so chic. $400 in college spending for dorm room creates 500,000 jobs. And what they found was a lot of colleges are sending out catalogs, and the catalogs were all filled with foreign products. And so people are automatically going to the stuff that's in the catalog because they get a better deal, and the colleges get a kickback off of what. So they started having college students research American-made products and then call the catalog company and start saying, would you carry this instead? And they're having the universities contact them and say, we still want to participate, but we want you to carry these 3 or 4 more products. And look how that groundswell can change and start creating those jobs. 5% more US-made materials, this is building materials. There was a builder who realized he could build an entire house with American-made products. And if every builder just shifted 5% more to American-made nails and boards and doors and roofs, and $220,000 jobs within a year. So there's a definitive impact that we can make collectively as we make purchasing decisions. Oops. My friends in Grand Rapids at Local First commissioned a study in 2008 of Kent County, Michigan, which is basically the county that surrounds Grand Rapids, and they determined that just a 10% shift in consumer spending to locally owned businesses in that area would get $140 million in new economic activity, 1,600 new jobs, and $50 million in new wages in the Grand Rapids area. 10% is not a huge shift, right? So it's an amazing difference that people can make and businesses can make. How you spend truly does matter. On average, $1 once it's spent stays in an economy somewhere between 3 and 7 times. What determines whether it's 3 times or it's 7 times?
If you're doing it locally. repetitively.
Exactly. In essence, we do, right? If you get your dollar from somebody locally and you spend it locally and they spend it locally and they spend it locally, it just keeps staying in the economy, growing our own economic conditions. So it's big gains that are possible. Here's an example. Say you want to buy a gift for your client. You could get Lean In, big bestseller that's on all the, she's on every talk show, it's a big deal, right? Lean In, you got an author who lives in Seattle. You have a printing company that, while I don't know for certain, I would bet money is actually in China. I did not open the book to look, but typically with most of the New York publishers, the books are actually being printed in China. You have a publisher that is a New York-based publisher, and you have a bookseller that these days, for most people, is probably going to be Amazon, right? So you could go online, get this book, best-selling book, write a little note to your client, send that off. Great, lovely, nice gift. Or if you were to do something like send them a bottle of Michigan wine, you've got a grape grower that benefited, producing the local grapes, goes to the winery that produced the actual bottle of wine. You have a local-based distributor because with alcohol, you're probably not crossing the state lines to do it. And then you've got, if you go to somewhere like a Hiller's or a Bush's or any number of the local markets, you have also given your money to that local market, right? So you can keep zero in our economy, or you can keep every cent in our economy depending upon the simple choice that you make. You can't keep everything here. I did mention the pineapple thing. I am fond of them. But there are good choices that you can make. These are some of the things just to start thinking about. These are daily choices that we face. Starbucks or Big B, or for that matter, Coffee Beanery, Bear Claw, like I could go on and on and on. Your local coffee shop around the corner, right? That's a difference. I can't tell you how many times people contact me to talk about the Buy Michigan Now campaign and ask me to meet them in a Starbucks. I know. Every time I think, should I even, I will suggest a change of venue, but should I even take the meeting? Because I'm pretty certain they don't get the concept. Walmart versus Meijer, or you could say Target versus Meijer, right? Meijer being local. And price-wise, we all have to make whatever decisions make the most sense for our family, but it's just thinking about it. What if you tried Meijer before you went to Walmart or Target, right? And you did find it, and it was a price you could afford. Then you've done that much more good. GoDaddy or Liquid Web. A lot of people have GoDaddy is a very popular one, especially for entrepreneurs because it's inexpensive. Liquid Web is an awesome company in Lansing. It offers great hosting at affordable prices. Coca-Cola or Faygo. Denny's or Big Boy. Big Boy is headquartered here. Home Depot or Aco Hardware. I go to Aco Hardware first, and if I can't find it, then I start thinking about other places because they carry a lot more than you might think they would. Plus, they carry like 45 different Michigan-made products. You can get a cutting board shaped like the state at Aco Hardware. Who would have thought? And your Sanders sauces on the way out, everything. Ford or Toyota, Fujiwater or Absolpure. We have Absolpure here today, made me happy, right? It's potato chips. It's if every Michigan household shifted just $10 of our weekly spending to Michigan-made products, $10, that's probably one or two products that are in your cart, and you get a local brand instead of a national brand. Collectively, we put $38 million a week back into our economy. That makes you want to think a little bit twice about what you purchase, doesn't it? Okay, these are commonly missed business opportunities for entrepreneurs. Office supplies. I know at least one person in the room that will enjoy that. See Carol for your office supply needs. I mentioned web hosting before, and this is a common mistake a lot of times that entrepreneurs make. You use someone locally to design your website, and they say, I'll host it for you too, and they are buying the GoDaddy package. So if they offer to host it for you locally, ask them where it's being hosted. Some of them have servers, but a great number of them are not actually hosting it locally, so your money's still going out the window to someplace else. Printing costs. It's easy to go online and get the quick, inexpensive business cards and stuff, but there's usually a local printer that will do it for close to or the same price, and they'll take better care of you, and they'll be able to turn it around quicker. Insurance, repair services, refreshments. Like I said, Absolpure water, right? Better made chips, all these things that you can think about as you're setting something up. Meeting locations. National hotels versus something like a local college, or conference centers. There are locally owned conference centers. There are restaurants that are locally owned, or you can go to a chain, right? It's those kinds of things as you think about setting up meetings, Big B versus a Starbucks. These are all advantages of business being local if you adopt that philosophy, even though we know we live in a global economy. But if you start really thinking about how can I be more local, you can see the impact that you can make, and it is part of your story. And so what I would challenge everybody to do, whether you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business, or you work for somebody else in a different capacity, if it's a Michigan-based business, first of all, start thinking about where are your customers. If most of your customers are local and you're hiding on your website where you are based, it's amazing how many times you can't find, because people don't want them to send them stuff, so they don't put an address. But if it's somebody who is a local customer who cares about whether or not you're local and they can't tell, you lost that business. Right? So think about where your customers are. Where can you find partners? We talked about those collaborative opportunities. Think about those different ideas. Is there a group of competitors? Maybe there is value in that. Maybe it's just something as crazy as pickles and snowboards, right? Who's doing something that's completely different from you that you could combine your efforts and get combined marketing? Sometimes it's just combining marketing dollars. Sometimes it's a community where every business puts in $100 and they market the town to get people to come there instead of separately trying to market all their businesses, right? It's thinking that way. So think about which of these answers warrant change and what stories you already have to tell. If you already buy a lot of locally produced products and your customers are local, you need to tell them that. You need to tout that. And nothing makes me smile more when I go into a restaurant and I see on the menu that they've highlighted the Michigan products or the Michigan ingredients, or they put a big sign out front saying that they're doing it, right? Granted, I care a little bit more than the average person, but a lot of people care. And so if you're already doing it, how do you not tell that story? So tell that story. If somebody leaves here today and decides to make a change and switch to a new web hosting company or whatever it is because it's local, you have a story that you can tell. You can tell that on social media. You can tell that to the media in general. You can start saying, we made a committed effort. We looked at all our vendors, and we found 3 vendors that were equivalent to what we had, but they are local, and we made that change, and we encourage other businesses to do that. Become a spokesperson for doing it, and you have a great story to tell. It's also just trying to tell you there's a whole line of products from that company that you don't know about yet, and we want to be the ones to help you find that company.